Welcome back to Empowered and Out, the career coaching podcast where we have real conversations about confidence, purpose, career growth, and what it actually takes to show up in your professional life with more clarity and self-trust. I'm your host, Coach Jon, career coach and advocate for showing up fully at work. And this season, we're talking about healing and resilience, what it really takes to recover from workplace trauma, protecting your mental health, rebuilding your confidence, and coming back to yourself without leaving parts of yourself behind. Through real conversations and coaching-centered insights, my goal is to help you reconnect with your confidence, trust yourself more, and start making career choices that support not just your success, but your well-being too. So take a breath, settle in, and let's get into today's conversation. Today, I'm excited to do something different. I am welcoming back Coach Jane, who was just on a few weeks ago. Jane is a former corporate leader turned internship coach who helps college students land competitive internships and step into their careers with more confidence, strategy, and direction. She's also a good friend, and we are each other's accountability partners as well in our coaching businesses. Jane knows what employers are actually looking for. She's made it her mission to help students understand the real world skills that are not always taught in the classroom. So in today's conversation, Coach Jane will be interviewing me. We thought it would be a great way to get, for you all, the listeners and viewers, to get to know me a little bit more and see how I coach and to really get the details about who I am. But before we get started, I guess I should say, welcome, Jane. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So before we jump in, I'm going to do this, even though I'm going to be passing the reins over to you very shortly. We have to do an energy check-in because I feel important, especially today since the tables are turned. So I'm going to ask you, and then I will actually pipe in and say, but what is your energy level at today from a scale between 1 and 10? And what's contributing to that number?
I think mine is a 9.8. I'll never be a 10. I'll never admit to being a 10. And it's way up to 9.8 because I'm so excited, Jon, to switch the table on you and be the host today, because you have done this to me a few times. And, people don't realize it can be a little nerve-wracking, a little disconcerting to suddenly have questions that you have no idea what the person's going to ask. And I think that I'm excited to be able to do that. So my energy is way up today.
I love that. And honestly, you find it nerve-wracking. For me, it's relaxing for me in a way but my energy level, I would say I'm at like a 9. I'm not, but I'm excited today because I know I've joked with you before that it's kind of fun to be on the other side, not the one always having to ask the questions, because it is a lot of preparation. As you know, you had to prepare to ask the questions for me. And I mean, I do get a lot of great information from my guests, but prior to coming, and interviewing them, but it is kind of nice on the back end that, for me today, that I just kind of get to sit back in a way. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, depends on how you look at it, I still get to do all the post-production. So it's not going away from me on that aspect of it, but I'm excited. I really am. So, I'm just going to pass it to you because I have nothing to, read on my script because I don't have any questions because you're the one asking questions today.
There you go. Well, as I said, I'm really excited about this. So my energy is high and I have high expectations for this episode. And yes, I'm very happy that I don't have to do post-production, that you have to do it. Unfortunately, that means that you have control over erasing anything you didn't like your answer on. So we're going to have to try to hold you accountable for that later. First question
I think we'll be fine.
All right. The first question I have for you is, your work is really focused heavily on building confidence and making sure you're a confident individual, making sure you're authentic, and that you do everything with purpose. What first led you into this space personally? Is there a personal story that you have how did you end up here?
So what's kind of interesting is back during the pandemic, I started a podcast, Positive Motivation and Self-Improvement. We are at a time where, as we know, everyone in the country, well, really in the world, was down, was frustrated, was depressed. And a lot of people, thankfully not myself, but a lot of people lost their jobs as well, because we had a time period where we had especially here in Colorado, we had a stay-at-home order. So you had to be at home. Good or bad for me, I worked for an essential business. So I was actually in the office because I worked in the funeral industry. And oh yeah, people were dying, but people die all the time, just so you know. And our numbers actually didn't go up just because it was a pandemic. In our office, there were other offices around the country that did that. But I kind of felt that kind of led me to really take a step back and look, and like, really, people are not really happy. They really want to find someone needs to help them in direction. And I'd been helping my sister over the year, family, friends, and a friend of mine who at the time suggested, why don't you become a coach, like a life coach? Have you ever thought about coaching? Because your podcast is going down the path of what people need to hear, but yet they might need that extra step. And I'm like, all right. And so she had actually, ironically, sent me over the link to where I got all of my coaching certifications from, Transformation Academy. She gave me a link. They were actually having a special at that time, and which they run quite often, but I seem to not catch them now. If I want to add a new certification, I seem to kind of miss it, but that's because I'm busy. And so I don't see it. But at first, I wasn't really, it sounded exciting. And I was like, okay, but my mindset wasn't there. And I knew that, okay, well, here it is. I've already paid for it. I'm going to sit this here for now and come back to it, because I knew I could always come back to it. You had it for life. You never lost it. And so, because I started going through a few of the certifications and I just couldn't focus. And so I was like, okay, well, if I can't focus, what's going to be good for me if I'm trying to coach someone on something that I didn't focus on to begin with? And at a few years later, I was kind of at a point that work was really frustrating me, and I was looking for something new. And the coaching, it always kept coming back. Even my sister kept bringing it up. I had friends that kept bringing it up. And so I was like, okay, let's look into this. Let's get these certifications. So I got 5 certifications. And the one that really stuck out to me and really meant the most was helping people finding their purpose. Because and for those of you, sometimes it's like finding your passion, what you love to do, what you enjoy, what makes you happy, trying to be in a workplace or an environment just in general, that's not pulling you down every day. And in that, I kind of started pushing towards career coaching, which they do go hand in hand, obviously. But at the time, I wasn't really on board with it, but I went with it. And then the confidence, again, they go hand in hand. And talking with some friends, and my sister, especially my sister, who's an exec in a company, and she said, people just don't have any confidence anymore. It's really amazing. These people I'm interviewing, they don't know how to, say how great they are. Their resume is speaking volumes, but they're dead in the water when they walk in the door, and they need somebody to really push them. And I think you really should start, integrating like confidence. And so I'm like, okay. And so to today, that's why I help people like rebuilding their confidence and rediscovering their purpose. Because from you and I's conversations offline, and what we, in our, weekly meetings, but also just chatting with so many other people in my life, including people who I've interviewed on this podcast, they're like, oh, you're on point. That is exactly what people need right now. And I see it. I see people that are not confident, that are shy, that pop on headphones, that don't want to talk to you, that just stare at their phones. And I don't know, yikes, in a way, because I guess I just look back to when we had 0 devices and there was nothing for us to hide from, or hide behind, really. And I think helping people to get that confidence back is really what's been the drive, and just seeing it day in and day out of people. I think that's why I keep.
So I'm going to interject. You just mentioned something that has me throwing in a wild card question. You mentioned that people throw in devices or headphones, things like that. And I'm wondering, do you know what impact devices, electronics, the digital age, AI, any of those and all of those have impacted people from a purpose and passion standpoint? and a confidence standpoint.
I feel like especially the younger generations, not so much, I would say probably not, maybe a little bit of maybe the youngest of the millennials. I wouldn't say probably the mid to older millennials, probably not, and probably definitely not the Gen Xers and above. But I feel like millennial and Gen Z, especially, I think being presented to them already from early ages. I mean, I say that, but I remember, and yes, elementary school is when I was introduced to a computer, but that was a time where everybody didn't have computers at home. And you definitely didn't have anything mobile like a cell phone that you could be able to carry. But I feel that with the digital age, with these devices and the onslaught of AIs, particularly, I think that it really is causing these people to these generations to not to just want to sit there and maybe find the answer on their phone and not really want to talk to people. I mean, you and I personally have seen a few people that we know that their resumes are screaming amazing, but then they can't give definitive answers in an interview why that company should hire them. And they're not dummies. These people have really great GPAs, and it's just like, and I do, one of the challenges because of the devices, and I think this really became prevalent especially during the pandemic, but now during the pandemic everything came to light digitally. We are able to do what you and I are doing right now,
Absolutely.
talking, and we had the amount of Zoom meetings it increased and all the work environments. Goodness gracious. I was so tired of seeing like meetings. It was like meeting after meeting after meeting. But that was the way, and that is the way of the future, the way we're going to communicate. But I feel that when we use things such as AI as a tool and not the end all, is where you can get probably that confidence back a little bit more. Because when we sit behind these devices, and we've seen it, that we're thinking that's how we need to communicate with people. And I can personally say, because when we get to talk with someone in person or on the phone, and I know that's such an archaic thing for some of these younger generations to talk on a phone with someone, but I don't know. And I mean, even sometimes I just want to hear the voice of the person that I'm talking with, and I don't want it to be on the screen like this. But
So what I just heard you say, I'm going to summarize that real quick, is that even though millennials, younger millennials, and Gen Z grew up in a digital age with Snapchat and Insta and short attention spans, if you will, that they can use AI to build confidence.
I would say so, yeah.
That's what you were just saying. That's surprising because most people don't link the communication skills and technology skills together. What you're saying is they'll use AI to build their confidence, but then what about their communication skills, which have all been Snapchat and Insta and swiping? How does that translate, or how does that come over and integrate with their communication skills?
Well,
How
the
can it
biggest how they can integrate is, it's a good question, because I feel that, well, you and I know people that we know as we were growing up to find a job. Well, I'll just say actually nowadays, over the 10 years that I've lived in Colorado, every job that I had was, except for my very last one, was done through, I know it's almost like a bad word to the Gen Z, networking. I learned to find someone who was in those companies. And I found people who were there who were actually, and I kind of feel this is a little asterisk on this. Yes, if you know someone in the company, it's great. They probably need to be a good employee at that. If they're on a PIP and they're not, and they're at the last straw of like frustrated at a job, they're probably not the person you want to find within that company to help you get a job there.
Can you
But
just explain what a PIP is for those listeners who may not
yes,
understand that acronym?
yes, especially probably the Gen Zers, they may not know what actually it is. It's a
Personal
oh my god,
improvement plan.
yes, a personal or a professional improvement plan, whatever. Yeah, typically it's put on if something comes across that may or may not be legit. I'm just going to say that because I've seen and experienced those go out, and I'm like, really? Okay, but the networking is huge. because I feel that, and that's communication, that's talking. We're now, guess what? We're hitting the summer months. Most college students are out. A lot of people, and I've been chatting with many people recently that are frustrated with their jobs. And I'm like, okay, well, guess what? If you want to go and get a new job, and you actually taught me this, which I love, but it makes sense. And I kind of feel like it was in the back of my head, but I didn't really think about it. Find the company you want to work for. Don't just say, I want to work in aerospace. I mean, that's a bonus here. We have a lot of companies that you could do that with, but you might want to know someone. Now, if I wanted to go into aerospace and I had the qualifications, which I definitely do not, we have a big company here. Some people may have heard of it, Lockheed Martin. They're very large. They do a lot of government contracts. They're very busy. You pretty much have a long-term career as long as you're a good hardworking employee. But if I wanted to go there, I would reach out to my friend and I would say, hey, I saw there's a role open. What do you think about, could you pass my name along if I apply for this job, whatever. But now we're in the summer months. There's going to be gatherings. You need to chat with your aunts, your uncles, your cousins. They all have jobs, most likely. And especially because you're not going to want to probably you don't want to ask your parents. Let's be real. You probably don't want to talk to your parents. You want to take a step away from the parent level. And I only say that because the parents always have good intentions, 100%. But it comes on a little bit maybe easier, or maybe a little bit tough love will come across a little bit easier if you're listening to it not from your parents or even a coach, because you've already heard this for years and years and years and years from these same people. And they're great. They're giving you good advice. But by the time you're looking for jobs or help or assistance, they may or may not even be able to help you.
Right. So let me switch up again.
Sure.
I'm going to start throwing all sorts of stuff at you. What makes your coaching approach different from maybe a traditional career coach or a life coach?
Well, I feel that the biggest thing I've always done is everyone that I work with, it's personalized. I have a template. I have my coaching outline, whatever I'm going to be working, whatever someone needs help on. I mean, not anything. Obviously, I focus the most on purpose and confidence, but I do also help with resumes and interviews and that part of but for me, I feel like I give a little bit more personal touch. I'm really there. I am available even when we're not in a session. You can reach out to me. I am going to respond, and either typically by email. I have, like it or not, my phone is always on me. So I can always be reached. And I feel that just from my personal experience of dealing with being in the thick of many different corporate environments, but also, being in the coaching world, I'll say this, having this podcast, I've interviewed some amazing people from all over the world that have given some great insight that I've actually put into my practice. There's a lot of coaches out there that might just go and get certified, but don't go that extra step to keep learning, to keep educating themselves. And that's a hindrance on themselves and their potential to still keep getting clients, because I feel that the more you keep learning, the more you're going to be a benefit to your clients. And that's what I love doing. So
that's great. So you always talk a lot about purpose and alignment. How do you help someone go from, or distinguish maybe between what they should do and what actually feels authentic for them to do?
That's a really good question. I feel, first off, there are a lot of times people go into jobs or careers that it wasn't really what they wanted to do. It was someone told them to go down this path, or it was suggested, most likely by a parent, that, hey, we have a whole line of doctors in the family. You should probably go into the medical profession and become a doctor. Well, you have no desire. I'm going to give a great example. My dad was a medical doctor. He was an oral surgeon. I will say this. One of the things I love still to this day is my dad never pressured me to become a doctor. He didn't pressure my sister to become a doctor. He encouraged us, number one, just to go to college. That was a big thing, but also to just find what we really like to do. And my biggest thing that I help is that find what you love, find what makes you happy. can we make that into a job? Or is there a job out there that you can do? Because you never want to be doing in my opinion, it's not always possible, but if you can find something in the workforce that isn't going to stress you out every day, that you're not going to get burned out, that's where you need to go to. And I sit there and I ask my clients, I'll ask questions and say, hey, what makes you happy? Where do you see, what do you, well, first and foremost, starting off, do you have the Sunday scaries? Do you freak out getting ready to go into work on Monday morning? You won't have that if you're following your purpose and finding something that makes you happy. Rediscovering what makes you enjoy that every day. Even sometimes for me, I kind of joke about it sometimes that even doing this podcast, even though it's not my coaching, it's definitely my passion. I love doing this thing. And it's not stressful. The funny thing is, it's not stressful. Even when I might be literally at the 10th, like the last hour trying to get something published for the next day, it's still fun to get that content out. I love seeing people's reactions. So for me, you need to do something that's going to make you smile. A lot of it is, a lot of questions, really trying to train yourself, especially through clarity and mindset work, just to pause and to think and what's really not going to stress you.
So with that, you talk about masking or hiding parts of ourselves professionally. Why do some people struggle with that confidence at work?
I think a lot of it's self-doubt. We don't, even though we know we are qualified, we were hired for a reason. You were hired for a reason, but then we sit there and say, oh, but Tina over here, she might do this better. So I'm not going to even apply for that, or I'm not going to even ask to be a part of this project. And I feel that, I'm seeing it a lot, especially in the LGBTQ plus community, a lot of masking. One of the best conversations though I had last year on this podcast was talking about masking and the imposter syndrome. And the guest that I had on, Garrett Free, said, well, here's the deal. It's not imposter syndrome. It's not a disease. It's just self-doubt. We're just doubting ourselves. And I think that it's a little bit stronger than it was probably when you and I were in our younger years. There's a lot of bullying that's even more prevalent. The people are just, they love to sit there and say, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. And I feel that it just gets into us again more and more and more. And so then when we are just going to go along, we're just going to go with the norm. And unfortunately, that really does hold you back. And when people shine with their authenticity, their authentic self, they can step away from that mask. They can take that mask away and they can shine. And the funny thing is, most of the time, the people who have been hiding, who are quiet, that are maybe just in the corner listening in a meeting instead of actually really, participating, sometimes those are probably the biggest gems on the team because they really do have that knowledge. They may not have the expertise necessarily, but they have that drive. They really do want to share their joy, their happiness, what they can bring to the table. And I think that the biggest thing is you have to find a company that's going to be able to have that. And I know that's not necessarily easy to do, but if you can take away that mask and just test it, first and foremost, just test it with some, maybe not your boss, but maybe like a coworker, and say, hey, what do you think if I would do this? Or what do you think if I do this? Or, by the way, I have a partner, they're of the same sex, or that, whatever. Then I think when you take those tiny steps, and you have the possibility to, lack of a better term, jump out and be, coming out of that space and rip off that mask and be really the best you can be authentically.
Okay, so for someone listening right now who might feel stuck, unseen, unsure, or having self-doubt about themselves, where do you recommend they start to rebuild that confidence? Is it talking to someone at work that they trust? Is it baby steps? Is it one giant leap for mankind? How should they go about doing that?
Well, I feel that yes, if you can find someone, or which I don't really remember looking back at some of the companies I've worked with, they probably did have these, but I feel these really came very prominently, especially during the pandemic. But finding an employee resource group, especially something that's going to connect with you, if you have a group, because as we kind of joked, you're not going to go to HR. Don't waste your time. I'm just going to tell you, don't waste your time. They're not there for you. They're there for the company and protecting the company. So you need to find potentially a coworker. I mean, it is hard if you were a brand new employee to find someone. But I mean, I can tell you personally, when I joined the last company I was in, like almost 3 years ago now, my boss at the time said, "Hey, you should check out this ERG. They're pride related. They do this and they're great, and they do all these activities. They meet once a month or whatever it was." And I'm like, okay. And it was a great way. We actually had someone in the group that said they had never felt more confident in the workplace because of the support that they got from that group. That in turn led them to be more honest and authentic in their role at the company. And I feel when you can find those people or that potential group, it's a bonus. Also, though, baby steps. If you don't have something like that accessible to you, for lack of a better word, latch on, or like kind of go and take a break with one of your, coworkers, or maybe it's not even someone that's in your own, group. Maybe it's someone who you got to know during orientation or someone you came into the company and you guys clicked. Test it, because you need to test it with take the baby steps, because I feel that sometimes, I mean, if you're confident enough to jump out and be, loud and proud and authentic from day one, awesome for you. That's not even me to this day. Like, I would still probably take a little bit of baby steps, because I personally would read the room. I would read who's going to potentially react in a certain way before I would maybe say something that could offend a lot of people.
So with that, how much confidence do you believe comes from mindset versus the environment?
I would say probably 90+% comes from mindset. You really have to train your brain. I mean, yes, the environment is one thing, but I feel that if you don't have it, if you're not telling yourself that you got this, you can do this, I'm qualified, I'm the best person for this role, it's going to be really hard to think that you're going to just be able to jump into a space and, lead right away or get that, that role or whatever it might be. Now, that's just coming, for me personally, I feel that we are trained early on as humans, as children, to either like or hate. We're not born with that. We're not born with hate. We're trained to hate people. So it's the same thing. Like, you train yourself, you hear it day in and day out. If you're always hearing you're worthless, you're dumb, you're stupid, whatever, you're going to just have that constantly in your brain. But like, I can tell you, and I can thank you a little bit for this, even jumping onto this podcast today, I wasn't I'm not the one hosting it today. You are the one, leading the reins. But you know what I did? I turned off my mic. I turned off the screen, whatever. I'm like, all right, you got this. This is going to be awesome. This is going to be fun. You can do this. And I do this. Here's the deal, listeners. I do this for every single one. Like, even when I know that I'm confident going into an interview, or if I'm meeting with a client for the first time, I take a step. I take a step back. I have that quiet time, 10, 15 minutes sometimes before that activity. And you should be able to do that also in the work environment. Take a little step back. If it's going into a quiet room or a coaching, whatever they have in your office environment, if you happen to be in the office, if you're at home, take a quick little break, put yourself offline or in busy or whatever random settings you can do on Teams. I don't remember now. And in a way, kind of psych yourself up. But you can do it. You keep telling yourself that you can succeed literally in anything. I know this for a fact. You can do it.
Excellent. Let's shift. We're going to shift gears and talk a little bit more about resilience. So it's really easy to talk about it, but it's kind of hard to live through some things. What has resilience looked like in your life?
Well,
I didn't tell you this was going to be easy. You knew that, Jon.
I knew that. Wow. Okay. For me, well, one of the biggest challenges, like years ago, I worked for a company, excuse me, and it was It was in a call center environment. I will admit, kudos for those who do that all the time. Whew, it's hard. It's rough. I was very thankful to be on that where I was. I was in the call center environment, but I wasn't on the phones. Thank goodness. I was in the dreaded workforce management team that nobody likes in the call center. But I love the job. Our boss, we had an amazing boss to start off with, and she was awesome. She scared us, but she was awesome. For those who, especially because the second movie just came out, Devil Wears Prada 2, everybody used to call her, and I didn't, at the time when I was working there, I hadn't initially seen Devil Wears Prada. It had been out for a few years, whatever. But they called her Miranda, and I never really understood it. But you could hear her walking to our area because we had raised floors, so you could hear her heels hitting like walking across, and it's like, oh my gosh, she's coming, and it's like, okay, not to the excessive level that they should do in the movie, but we kind of feared her, and it was like, oh my gosh. But what I learned, and she even said this from day one, you need to be able to embrace change or you're never going to succeed in this company. Now, what I have learned personally, you need to embrace change overall in your life. Things happen. So many things happen in our lives that we don't have any control over.
Very true.
For instance, you don't have to deal with this as much as I do based on where you live compared to where I live, but rush hour, it sucks. Just let's be real. It sucks. But you know what? You have zero control over it. And there's no reason to get mad and angry and upset because you know what I do? I blast music or I listen, or I'm listening to a podcast, whatever it might be. And I'm like, all right, this is good. This is getting me from point A to point B. And I've learned that when I'm not stressing myself out, and when you don't stress yourself out about the things that you actually cannot change, you're going to be a lot happier person just in general. And with me, I mean, a lot of resilience when I moved here from Colorado, I knew no one except my aunt and my uncle, my cousin. At that point, I didn't know his now ex-wife and his children really. I didn't know them very much because they were out here. They didn't come to Kansas City a lot, where I'm originally from. And I mean, my partner and I knew him, but kind of like we'd been dating for a year, but it's like before I moved out here. But I mean, I had to just fly by the seat of my pants and go, all right, let's do this. But I always had that in the back of the head, but the back of my mind is like, well, the bonus is I always have family here, that I always am going to be comfortable because I can always rely, in theory, I could rely on them. And the bonus, I even have friends. I have friends from high school that are out here as well. Even an old coworker that I worked with years ago, her and her husband and kids, I mean, they live a little bit, probably about 40 minutes away, but they're still here. And so that has helped me personally because I always know that even when things get tough or, if I can't pick up the phone and talk to a family member, be it my mom, my sister, my best friend, or even chatting with my partner, at least I do have family here locally. Now, that did just change recently because my aunt and uncle don't live here anymore. They just moved back. But my resilience, I feel, to me, the more that I know how to handle, I let things happen that are going to happen. And for what I can control, what I can't. If I get frustrated sometimes with things, even my partner's like, okay, what are you going to do about it?
Good question. So what do resilient people tend to understand that other people kind of miss? And I think you kind of just answered that. Like, what am I going to do about it? But tell me in your words. Maybe I shouldn't lead you into that. Sorry.
I mean, it comes down to that, really. It's like, what are you going to do about it? Control the things that you can control.
Yes.
And just brush aside the things you can. Or if you have to still deal with a certain situation all the time, be it something like a rush hour traffic or that very annoying employee that really frustrates you on a daily basis inside in your job, guess what? Control what you can control. And I remember this years ago when I had a bully and my mom was like, kill him with kindness. It's gonna freak him out because you're being so nice to them more than just taking the bullying. And it worked. But yeah, control what you can control and just ask yourself, what are you gonna do? And whatever you're gonna do, if that means you have to step away from a situation, There's nothing wrong with that. You are, personally, I feel like you're a much a stronger person if you step away than attacking someone right then and there. Be the bigger person. Step away, ask yourself, what are you going to do about it?
Perfect.
I'm sure you and I have both been where we want to send an email out, an email came across, it frustrated us, and we didn't send the email. You took a step back, paused before you sent that email, because if you'd sent what you really were going to send, you probably were going to lose your job that day or get written up. So you take a step back and go, okay, how do I handle this? What's the best way to move forward? And again, don't go to HR.
So your podcast is called Empowered and Out. What does being truly empowered mean to you today?
It's a really good question. I feel that, and the reason I chose, the funny thing is that how I chose the name. When I chose the name, I wanted to work. So, gosh, a couple years ago, I was trying to figure out a name. And I was like, okay, what's my name? Or people are always doing, oh, they have a word for the year, and this is what I'm going to focus on, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to be honest with you, I thought it was kind of dumb at first. But I asked the good old powers that be in Chat GPT, and I said, what's my word for 2020? I think it was like 25, I think maybe 24, I can't remember. And it said empower. I'm like, all right, I like this. I'm like, this is what I'm doing. This is what and they said empower. I'm like, to me, and I feel very strongly that this is, for me, being empowered is being authentic, being comfortable in your own skin. The authenticity is tricky, especially I think everyone struggles with authenticity and being empowered. I feel when you listen to the right stuff, you're around the right people. Like they do say, you are the example of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. If you're going to surround yourself with a bunch of negative, put it out there,
Absolutely.
negative Nancy's, you're going to always be negative. You got to think the positive, especially like we just said, what are you going to do about it? If you have things that you can control them. And I feel when you're empowered, you have that confidence to get that job, to apply for a promotion, to, I don't know, propose to someone if you're interested in maybe proposing to like your partner or whatever. It just gives you that extra kind of oomph to be able to, be a better, be a better version of yourself. But I think the authenticity is a huge thing. I think
Okay.
that's where it comes into. But I also know, especially because I have felt this as a person in the LGBTQ plus community, authenticity and empowerment can be hard, because if you're working for a company that is not really pro LGBTQ plus, then you are going to probably, as we kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, you're probably going to have to put up a little bit of a mask, unfortunately. And I hate it. I hate that people have to still do that to this day in 2026. But I also know that it's for your safety, it's for the betterment of yourself. If you can do it, just always make sure you're surrounding yourself with the right people, especially in the workplace, but also outside of work, to help you with that empowerment and that authenticity.
Okay. So if listeners today could walk away from listening to this conversation and they remember one thing about confidence, resilience, or purpose, what do you want them to remember? The one thing that they should walk away from this podcast with?
That's a good question. Just learn how to trust the right people, learn how to trust yourself. I think that's one of the best examples I got from someone recently on this podcast. Like, trust yourself, listen to yourself.
Definitely.
I think that's the biggest thing, is when you're not listening to yourself and you're listening to all the other, to put it out, like crap out there, be it what's on TV, what's on radio, what's on whatever, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever it might be. Why? They don't know you. Listen to yourself. And I
Absolutely.
think that's where you're going to succeed the best in your confidence and finding your purpose. And, and always, if you need that extra help, find someone who can help you, like a coach, because that's what we love to do. We want to help people.
Okay, great. So, what's something you believe now about success or happiness that your younger self would have struggled to understand a few years back?
For just a few years.
No, I'm not aging you at all, buddy. But
Um,
what do you believe now around success and happiness that you would have had a hard time understanding when you were younger?
well, first, success, everyone has their own definition of success.
That's
I
true.
feel that some people say, to be successful, like in the work world, you need to be some higher exec. That's what's going to make you happy. And what I've learned as I've gotten older, and especially with family members who are in executive roles, oof, no, thank you. And there's a lot of, it's actually almost even more stressful being in those roles.
Right.
I don't know. No, thank you. Happiness. You control your happiness, your joy. A lot of people, and you probably have seen this. I'm sure the listeners have seen this. I know so many people that will take time and go offline for like 30 days off their social medias. They turn off notifications. My partner, he does not have his notifications on his phone. So if he doesn't physically look at his phone, he doesn't know if I send him a text or, if we're not in the same place. And so, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, to turn that off, but I can't go offline for 30 days. But the people that can do it, I love that. And I'm not, it doesn't hurt me that I can't go offline for, 30 days. I don't know. I feel that when you know that you control your happiness, no one single person controls your happiness. You choose what you do on a daily basis. You choose what you do the very single moment you wake up every morning, and what you do when you go to bed. And when you're not, if you're letting friends, family, coworkers, whoever it might be, control that, you're probably not going to end up in a good place.
These rapid fire questions. For anyone listening, this is the part that worries me the most when I am a guest on my podcast, because I have no idea what's coming at me, and they scare me. They do. I can handle them. They just scare me. So here's your rapid fire questions. One word that describes resilience. That's why I don't like rapid fire questions, Jon, and that's why I gave you that one.
Embrace.
Okay, good. What instantly boosts confidence for you? What do you do to instantly boost your confidence? It's easy when it's not you asking the questions, huh?
Smiling.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. A daily habit you can't live without.
Coffee.
I knew that was going to happen. Knew you were going to say that one. The best advice you've ever received.
Trust in yourself.
One. What gives your life the most purpose right now?
Say that again.
What gives your life the most purpose right now?
Watching my niece growing up. I mean, she's adorable. She's 2. My sister would say the terrible 2s. I get to see from a distance, but still love it. Yeah.
I'm going to skip the next one, which was coffee, podcast, or silence in the morning, because you've already said coffee. And I know that would be the answer. A book that everyone should read at least once, or your favorite book.
Can I cheat? I know the author. I just went blank on the book.
Are you having a senior moment?
No, he's written many books. That's why I'm trying to.
That's all right. Darn rapid fire questions.
Think and Grow Rich from Napoleon Hill.
What's one thing people misunderstand about confidence?
I feel that you just have it or you don't. I think you learn and you grow with confidence. I think a little bit as we age in general, as we grow in life. I think a lot of experiences can give us more confidence. Sometimes that can also pull back the confidence in ourselves.
If you could coach yourself, your younger self, in one sentence, what would you say?
Find the purpose that's going to make you happy.
I like that. That's excellent. Last one. I want you to fill in the blank. True success means blank.
True success means, oh wow, that's kind of redundant. Darn it.
Are you going to edit this one out?
No, I'm just trying to, because I was about to say true success. True success is finding your joy.
So true success means your joy. I like that. That's a great way to end things. So I want to thank all of our listeners, if you've made it this far, for learning all about Jon and his coaching and how he brings resilience and confidence to his clients. So I'll turn it back over to you, Jon, since this is your podcast, not mine. And thank you for putting up with my tough questions.
Thank you. It actually was really fun, I have to say. And I'm going to, those rapid fire. Oof.
I know.
I don't want to have anyone else ask me rapid fire questions anymore. Nah, those were easy. I mean, easy-ish. But, Jane, thank you for actually suggesting this. This was fun. I remember when you first brought it up, I was like, okay, but then I realized that with all of I'm doing, everything that I'm doing with my coaching right now, with, me throwing into the webinar game with coaching, and then with this podcast, it gave me the idea that well, people need to know a little bit more because people have been listening,
Yes.
but most of the time I'm interviewing, guests like yourself, asking about them and what makes them, special and great. And where I wasn't is like, you can only say so much on a podcast intro or outro that's not, or doing an individual podcast, just me talking and no, thank you. I kind of, the funny thing is, I love all the people I have individual podcasts. It's great. But the ones that help me grow the most are the ones where I get to listen to someone interviewing someone else. I think those are the most fun. And I'm all about educating and teaching and coaching. And so thank you for coming back to ask, these questions. I know we talked about it probably at least a month ago or so
Yeah,
about
it's been
doing
fun.
this. And so I'm excited. And this was fun. And I am sure that this is going to resonate with those listening and hopefully let them know that this is a reminder that, career readiness, it's not always about having the perfect resume, the perfect interview. We talked about resilience a lot, and really being resilient, it's huge. You have to be, especially in this day and age, the way things are working right now with the job market, with applying, with recruiters, all that craziness. You really do have to kind of put up, I wouldn't say put up, but you have to get stronger in your confidence and really finding that purpose. And so thank you for letting me share what, makes me as a coach. So,
My
and yeah. And obviously, listeners, if this resonated, obviously, if you're ready to rebuild your confidence, rediscover your purpose, or stop feeling stuck in your career, I'd love to support you. You can actually book a free call with me, Coach Jon, through the link in the show notes. And obviously, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs a reminder that confidence is built and it's not assigned just to the chosen few. So until next time, keep showing up, keep building confidence, keep choosing the career and life that actually feels aligned with who you are while being empowered and out.